Thank you for joining us for this special video report on what to do when returning home from a wildfire. I'm Daniel Berlant.
And I'm Lynette Round, and we have some great safety tips for you on re-entering your home.
It's important to note that once a wildfire burns through your area, there are still hazards and dangers that can exist.
And we want to make sure that you have all this information so that you know what to expect when you go back home.
Now, right now, currently, with the 9 to 10 fires that are burning across the state, it's very important that you understand these before you're returning home. And even for those of you that are not impacted by the current fires, it's still some important information to know, so in case you are ever impacted by a fire, you know what to do when you're headed home.
Definitely, and there's some great safety tips that you can have. And just from the get-go, when you're going back to your home, there are still a lot of emergency personnel out there and utility companies working out there to restore the power and the gas. So you want to make sure that you drive slowly, be cautious, know your surroundings so that you don't impact those emergency responders.
Absolutely. Good, great points, Lynette. So let's go through a couple of these. When driving back to your property, right off the bat, you want to make sure you're careful with down trees or even down power lines that may be on the roadway. Even if you're going in a steep area, even if there's not anything visibly in the roadway, be cautious that on the side of the roads, the fire may have loosened tree roots, rocks, and other debris that could easily fall into the roadway. So there could be falling material if you're not careful. Now, once you get home, there may be items in your driveway. Clear off your driveway of any trees or other debris that is on there. Make sure that your driveway is completely clear of that debris. And lastly, be cautious of any utility poles in your area. The utility poles could be charred down below and they may be weakened. Again, as Lynette mentioned, utility company crews are in your area and they are working on getting those cleaned up and removed safely, but be cautious because it doesn't take much for a tree or a power pole to fall.
Definitely. And since once you've come into your property and you're in your driveway, you want to go ahead and check the outside of your home. Make sure you check for any type of smoldering embers in your rain gutters, in your eaves, under your deck, in small little crawl spaces, even the attic. You want to make sure there's nothing smoldering, nothing just lingering around where it can reignite or ignite something new. Make sure that you also check if you have a pump house. You want to check inside any type of small enclosed area to make sure that you don't have any burning embers in there that can ignite a fire. And also check for your electrical power. Make sure it's still working. If it's working, that's fantastic. If it's not, though, we want to go ahead and let them know what to do if their power's out.
Yeah, absolutely. Check with your utility companies right off the bat if there's problems with your services. But automatically assume you're probably going to be without power when you get home. Utility companies are obviously working to try to get power restored. But for many of the current fires, like the Butte fire right now, firefighters are working diligently, utility workers are working diligently to get power restored, but there may not be power when you get home.
Right.
But you should start by checking your gas meter. Look for any visible damage. If you see any damage, do not attempt to repair, do not attempt to turn on those services. Contact your local utility company like PG&E or contact your propane company. Also, look at the electrical meter. See if there's any damage there. Again, if there is, you're going to want to contact your utility company. Do not attempt to turn the breaker on. And the most important item, there may be down power lines. You should assume that all power lines or electrical lines, wires that are on the ground are charged or turned on. And if you touch them or come in contact, you could be injured.
Yes.
So do not touch any power lines that are down. Contact your utility company immediately if you see any.
So definitely, once you check the outside of your home, now you want to go inside and check the inside of your home. Check for any embers that could be in the attic. If they may have got into some small areas, you want to check that out. Also, if your electricity is off, make sure you check your appliances. You want to make sure that if your electricity does come on, that your appliances are working. Make sure that your electrical appliances are plugged in, that they work, and if not, keep them unplugged. That way, if there's any type of electrical surge, you don't spark a new fire. Check your phone lines. If you have landlines, make sure that those are still working because that's a great resource to have. And then have flashlights because you never know, power can be intermittent, and at least you'll have a flashlight for light.
Yeah, that's some good information. Again, this is all for when you're returning home from a wildfire. You have to understand there are still risks. Trees may be weakened, branches may come down, power poles may also be weakened, and they may too also come down. There may be still smoky material. Once a wildfire is contained, that doesn't necessarily mean that firefighters pack up and leave. In fact, firefighters continue to focus on making sure those hotspots are put out. You can always report a new emergency to 911, but if there's smoke in the area, report that to the firefighters working in the area of the fire. But you should also understand that once the fire has passed through and ash is just blanketed the ground, that ash may be covering up holes holes that may be filled with hot coals down below. If you were to step in that hole, though you cannot see it from the blanketed ash, you step into it, you could be burned. So be very, very cautious. A good rule of thumb, if you see white ash, you should assume that there is hot material in there. So be very cautious about walking around your property over the next several days.
Actually, be careful the entire time you're out there. This is still a fairly new environment for you, so you want to make sure that you're safe. Check everything around you, your property. A couple of days later, check your trees. Make sure that there's no loose limbs because things can happen later on, a couple of days down the road.
Yep. Again, report any issues with your power, your electrical, your gas to your utility company, though they are working hard to get it back on. Do not try to attempt to turn any of them on. Now, you can find all this information and a lot more on our website at readyforwildfire.org.
Yes, it's your one-stop shop for ready, set, go information and for returning after a wildfire.
So even if you aren't impacted by the current fires right now, you're waiting to get home, or you just live in an area that has not yet, unfortunately for you, been impacted from a wildfire, you still need to make sure that you are ready for a wildfire and you know what to do before, during, and after that fire has gone through. So for now, I'm Daniel Berlant.
And I'm Lynette Round.
Have a fire safe day.